Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Topdecked, the Topdeck Gwent Talkshow. I hear that Swim has actually been claimed by Gonta. He's made one too many pacts. How you doing, Swim?
I'm okay, Jaggerous. Thanks for asking.
So he's a little bit dead, but we are joined today by Mogwai. What up, Mogwai?
Hello. Happy to be here.
And CDPR's community manager, Burza. How you doing, Burza?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I'm hungry. Do you have any leads?
I wish I had. I'm all out for now.
But today what we want to talk about is Arena, because Gwent Arena did drop on Wednesday, and I think a lot of people have been having a lot of fun. There have been some frustrations too, but we can talk about that a little bit later. So I guess to start things off, everyone, I assume, has been playing a fair amount of Arena. What has been the craziest combo that you've seen someone play?
Well, if I start...
Oh no, go ahead, Mogwai. It's all you. No, I'm great, man.
I'm worried, man. You okay?
Time of my life.
Yeah, I can tell.
We can tell, man.
No, basically, the scariest combo that I faced was when I was playing Crash, Overlord. He managed to get double Yamar on Kraid on me. Ooh. And started chaining the 2-star Hunter and then Nithril and Deathmold into Thunder. He just started bopping all the... I even tried to Succubus one of them, and he had even more removal. It was like a very scary deck, just focused around just building up those Lord of Unvex and just zapping them down. And I honestly did not know that when you kill one of those guys, both of the Yamars get buffed.
Aww.
So it's crazy. Like, it was like every play was like 35 points or something, and it was like... Yeah,
because it says boost all Hjalmars, so I guess
yes.
Like CDPR knew this was going to happen. Like, why would there ever be more than one Hjalmar?
Totally, it's fine. The more, the better.
I see you've been having some fun with Mogwai, Mogwai. There was an infamous clip of that as well.
With Morkvarg?
Yeah, I think it was you. They played a Mogwai. Was it Crokies? Oh, well, this is the best play I've seen, but it wasn't even mine. They played a Mogwai, and no, I swear it was Mogwai, and he artifact compressed it. So then they played another Mogwai, and then they played a third, and then he revealed in their hand that they had a third Mogwai.
Oh yeah. I
thought that was you.
I was the recipient of that though. So yeah, that was. Because I was like, oh yeah, I got the answers, but then I saw the second one, and then the third was like, well, at least he doesn't have Shoop. But yeah, it was pretty bad.
Has anyone ever seen anyone like double draft Shoop? Me.
Oh, double draft Shoop? Like pick two Shoops and like think they can work together?
That they can't double draft Shoop. It's a fun one, right? Craziest one for you, Swim. Tell us.
So okay, for me, this was my deck, and it's one of the few drafts I've played because I didn't really play PTR. But basically, I had an Elven Swordmaster, 2 Stefan Skellens, a Joachim, and Bruver. So every single game, I would Stefan the Swordmaster to the top of my deck at 10 points, and then I would either Joachim or Bruver into Joachim, pulling it out at 20 and smashing for 20. And it's honestly just a ridiculous point combo, and it's ridiculously reliable too.
Good.
I think. Yeah,
it's like 35 consistently, right? Well, if you hit something that big. Wow.
And that's, I mean, just the raw consistency of it, and the fact that it's not even a super elaborate combo. Like, Elven Swordmaster is just one of those cards that can combo with a lot of things when you open up the faction doors.
Yeah.
See, I think my most fun one was they played Okfist, and I was like, oh no, I don't have a way to kill Okfist. This is terrible. So I was like, right, it's time. Uma's gonna like show me the way. So I played Uma, and it was like, here's Avalak the Sage and 2 other kind of crappy goals. And I was like, right, okay, we're gonna high roll Avalak the Sage, play Avalak the Sage, and Avalak the Sage gave me my own Okfist. So then it was great because by the time it got around to the turn where his triggered, I played this a turn after his, so his triggered. And then it came to my turn and mine triggered. So it basically completely countered his Okfist accidentally because he couldn't remove it either. Yeah, RNG saved the day.
Burza, have you been playing much Arena?
A little bit, a lot of work recently, so
I can
not as
imagine.
much as I would like. I think the best one for me was playing the first arena and getting 3 Pofkos and items that would go super well with that. It was meant to be. It was meant to be. It was just so fun. It wasn't very competitive, but it was fun to play for sure. So that was, I think, the highlight for me. But I've seen my opponents doing some crazy stuff, which was just, I was like, wow, this is interesting. I know when the design team, when they were testing out Arena, they had a lot of fun with crazy synergies, and everybody knew that there was something going on where. Because you have Garuna, he's like super quiet. He would just sit in the corner with designers, and he's super quiet. He never talks. He just says hi and like talks to you how you do and stuff like that. And he was just sitting here. You could hear just like, oh boy. When you hear oh boy, you know that something crazy is about to happen. So everybody's like, what happened? What happened? And they're all kind of looking. Yeah. But yeah, we've been having a lot of fun with it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly really happy with kind of how the mode ended up turning out. I was pretty skeptical at first, and I think there's definitely some like minor issues, but at the end of the day, it's very fun, and I personally am pretty much going to go full Kriparian and just not play anything else. I mean, at the very least for the entirety of this patch.
Nice. That's glad to hear. I mean, we had the closed PTR, and the closed PTR was mainly there to test how fun the mode was. And as you guys know, we surveyed everybody, and everybody was saying that it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So we were at least happy with that it's a lot of fun. We went through different modes, like you had 4 cards, 5 cards, then cards from only 2 factions. And I mean, it was really, really, really cool. What we want to do for the future is whenever we release something this big, for sure we'll be going public PTR, because there are some problems at the moment, but these are things that we're working very hard to. I mean, not me personally, but the whole team. And I saw like a Reddit post, if we actually have a QA team. Yes, we have backend and front end QA. They're working super hard, but some of these things, they slip through the cracks. And even if you have an open PTR, it's on different servers, and these things will most likely run away. I'm not trying to explain myself, of course, but I think everybody needs some type of explanation. So we're working on it. We'll fix it. And since I'm here, I would like to apologize for the problems that have been happening. I think that's a good point to end. Rant off.
It's worth saying that, for example, on the closed PTR, it's not like we didn't try and find bugs when we were on there. Like some of these just kind of slipped through the cracks after that. Because there was a bug, for example, on the closed PTR where Philippa didn't trigger. So you played Philippa and she was a 1-point play, and that kind of thing was frustrating, but it got fixed. And I think like CD Projekt Red, they it's not like they want people to have a bad experience. And I think overall, I've been having a good experience, like despite some of the connection stuff and things with Shillard, for example. I've been having a great time with it, and like yes, I get why it's frustrating, but overall, I think Arena's really fun. And I guess that moves nicely onto what is your best deck that you've made, and what is the worst deck that you've made. Has anyone had any 0-3s?
The best deck that I made was the one with like 10 golds, and the worst deck that I made was the one with 6 golds.
The best deck, it's hard to say the best. I mean, honestly, like I'd say I've been pretty fortunate with my arena runs. Like I've had 2 that are not in the PTR, and both I went 9 wins. So I've been having like pretty good decks. Like I've been pretty fortunate in that sense. But my favorite deck, like the one that was like the most efficient and actually felt like I put some strategy into it, was one with Croc on Crate. My finisher was Croc into Goliath. And that's a consistent 24-point finisher, and I managed to like really implement it. Like it just I think it was like one of my 9-0. I don't know. It was like really good because the entire deck just really it also punished like people who like drive past a lot, because it packed a lot of weather as well. And I like the ability to use your leaders as finishers in this format, as they can pull certain cards that they're not able to pull normally. And that was perhaps like my favorite one. I don't know if it was my best, but I loved that, Croc into Goliath all the time. It was really cool.
Sounds fun. I guess my worst deck was when I asked chat to draft. That was a mistake.
Oh,
Don't
of
ever
course.
do it.
Oh
Like,
god,
I've done that all the time.
How badly can this go? And like sometimes they were nice. Well, so they gave me Shoop, but then half the time they almost gave me 2 copies of things. And then someone in chat would be like, "Wait, it's gonna kill Shoop," and then like they decided not to. And then at one point it was like, "Here's Selkirk and here's Zarthisius. Which one would you like?" And chat's like, "We definitely think you should draft Zarthisius." And I was like, "Really? Like, give me strength."
God.
And then there was Blaze, there was Doppler, there was Necromancy, which actually worked quite nicely with Sabbath, I discovered during that run. It was just like, it was half good cards and half bad cards, and we managed to get like 4 or 5 wins with it. So like, I was pretty happy, all things considered. But I was just like, nah, chat, why? Well, what did I do? Like, I didn't do anything. I didn't punch a puppy or something. I had a run today as well that was kind of insane. That was like 13 golds though.
Oh, Jesus.
So yeah, we high rolled on the golds. But it was kind of weird because a lot of the golds are reactive. So then I was like, I had a handful of like reactive golds. So like Yennefer, for example, I was like, oh, I have to wait until I have Eunice to play Yennefer. Or like Sea Hill, I have to wait till they play Eunice to play Sea Hill. But all in all, like, I think if you have 13 golds, you're going to have a good time. And it was really fun. So that was good. But then I feel bad for the people I queued into. And they're like, when's she going to run out of golds? And I'm like, wait, we can do this all day.
It's funny you mentioned that though, like the chat drafting for you, because I use this thing called the smart clicks. I don't know.
Yeah,
how you call
smart click maps or whatever.
Yeah, and I use it to like have the chat just draft for me, and I basically, like, especially in the PTR, I would have like one draft which I would do myself, and then one draft which my chat would. And the problem is they always pick Camby, like.
Of course.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, I have to find out a way to like win with it. One time I was really close because I blocked their Shiru, but even then it wasn't enough. Like, they had a Shiru, and even then I lost. Like, he epidemicked his own Shiru and he still beat me because 20 points is if you don't have. I even had like the Herbalist with the Frost and all that. It didn't matter. So yeah, I mean, they did, like, once they did draft me one of the coolest combos in my opinion, which is Stefan Skeleton into Imlerith Sabath.
Ooh,
yeah.
That was the problem. Is the rest of the deck sucked like really bad. So I won a few games. I went like 3-3 or something because I actually won some games with Imlerith alone, but the rest of the deck, it had Camby too. Go figure. So yeah, I jump on that boat, but it's kind of like a challenge, right? And maybe, I don't know, I'll do one of those drafts once and I don't get fucking Camby. So yeah.
See, you're doing this all wrong. What you shouldn't be doing is like, oh man, chat always picks Camby, because now they know when Camby comes up, you just be like, Camby. And you'd be like, it's really convenient. I'm really happy that chat never picks a Glace. Like, God, imagine if they picked a Glace. That would be the worst. So you gotta just play chat a little bit. Like, damn, I really hate a Glace and Scoia'tael, so I hope you never pick those cards.
It's totally not a top 5 gold in the
Dandelion Poet.
So let's talk a little bit about leaders, seeing as we're kind of covering good cards. Which do you think are like the best leaders? Which have surprised you? Are there any that you thought weren't going to be that great and then came out swinging, and which are just bad?
In my opinion, the best 3 are clearly Bruver Hoog, John Calvate, and Ethne. And Ethne. I would also, I think Ethne is really good. I think Ethne, because it depends on your draft, but if you get like cards like if you get Monster's Nest, Scorch, you get like really, really good utility out of her, especially like Ethne into Monster's Nest is pretty flexible. And I picked her a lot. And I would give special mentions to Croc, because he's a very good finisher with a lot of cards, and Radovid, because he just denies carryover. I think those are the best.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a very similar page. Like, I really like Bruver and Calvite are pretty much the most reliable ones. I think the most interesting thing about leaders in this mode is they actually don't really feel quite that good. Like, it feels like the best gold cards just trump the leaders every time.
Well, let's see, Bruver. Bruver's really good.
I found Radovid to be like surprisingly good, because a lot of people are drafting, easy engines, I'll call them. So things like Reinforced Trebuchet, where you just plunk it on the board and it starts spamming points. Or Morkvargs and Orgiads are really common. So is Sabbath. You see him quite a lot. So having that lock option is really nice. And on top of that, he's just 14 points, which is pretty okay in terms of tempo. I mean, arena tempo is kind of insane, but I felt like Radovid was like a kind of a surprise hit. And I still haven't found a situation where Hensel will ever work. Part of me just wants to wait till I see machines.
One day.
Be like, right, one day I'll have that Hensel deck. It will be really unlucky, and we'll only draft bronzes, but they'll all be...
It's also like Serenova in Arena. It's at that tier.
You just you Henseled out like 5 whale harpooners.
Oh, nice. That'd be crazy.
The dream.
But you have to get them. Like, if you get them,
you have to get 5 bronzes.
Yeah. Well, normally you just have silvers and golds, and a little bit of bronzes. I sometimes get into a situation where I just like I try to tutor a bronze unit with something, and no way, it's not there. It's just silvers and golds. But yeah, I also think Francesca's pretty good. I mean, Francesca is always a good pick.
Oh.
I saw again. Shout outs to like I watched one of his videos on Arena, and I found it really cool. Crash, he drafted Francesca, and he was using it to pick up Imlerith. So Imlerith Sabath, for example, and like there's some cool combos there. I don't know. I just really like that card, but we'll get on to that point, I guess. But yeah, I'm a big fan of that card.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Arena that I think, well, there's 2 things actually, but a lot of the community concern going in was revolving around like 2 major things, which is that A, it might kind of get old quickly, and B, that it kind of would be an RNG fest. And I actually mostly disagree with both. I think there's like definitely some merit to both points, but I actually think the mode is very skill intensive, and that'll only become more apparent as like the best players figure out how to min-max it better. There's a lot of decision making in Arena, and even when you draft like, you know, like a 5 gold setup, like you can still go like 7 or 8 wins pretty easily, I think.
I actually, it's funny because a few days ago I would have disagreed with that, but I was one of those people that was like very skeptical and was thinking,
exactly.
I actually thought that it was gonna. One of the feedbacks that I gave to PTR, and I was very adamant about it, was the fact that I believed that because there were so many golds and silvers and lack of bronzes, there was going to be lack of proper synergies going on, and it was going to be a very point slappy kind of mode, and it was just going to really the coin flip was going to be really polarizing, and the coin flip is not as like I've had like runs I've been doing like pretty decently, and I've had runs in which I had like 4 coin flips in a row lost. Yeah. And you always find the way. I don't agree with what some people are saying that you always have to drive pass. I don't think it's as simple as that because it depends on your draft. I tend to like. I really like to draft for weather because I punish people who drive pass on me like that. Because if they want a long round 3, if I have multiple, I had this draft with like Will and Spirit, Burn a Brand, a bunch of mages, and I did it. Like I always picked those because I knew that, you know, a lot of drive passes were going to happen. It's very complex. Like I also like cards like Jarp and Ziggurin because when they drive pass on you, you play it. And then you kind of have that coin flip fix for round 2 in which you always have that 8 initial strength. That's going to make it very hard for your opponent to outtempo you, and you can bait him to like give out his strongest resources, trying to keep up with you. And then you reach a point in which you dump a few of your strongest ones to make sure that, you know, you get that card back because of that 8 initial strength. That goes a long way. And hello, Kitty. And yeah, I feel like there's a lot more to it than I thought initially, and I think there was actually a lot of skill involved in it, and I'm enjoying it, honestly. I agree. Like I would have completely disagreed like a week ago.
Yeah, no, I was skeptical at first too. Like I really was. And also a lot of people are still in the phase of thinking it's going to get old quickly. I mean, to a degree that's true, but I don't think that it's any more random or prone to getting old more quickly than, say, Hearthstone's draft mode, which is, of course, you know, it could have been done a lot better, and a lot of people that play Hearthstone draft mode, like, as their main mode, kind of complain about how much love Blizzard kind of doesn't give it. Yeah, sorry. But honestly, I think that it ends up working out quite well. Like, I think it's very, very enjoyable in the long term. I could be wrong. Hope not.
We'll see.
I think, for me, my main gripe at the moment is sometimes you just get a deck that's a bit dull to play. And then if you're you kind of fairly understand the thing with arenas. Even if so if you understand Gwent, you can still usually get, kind of 5-6 wins with an okay deck. So then you're like, oh, now I got to play 8 games with this like deck. And I'm just like, usually when that happens in ranked, I'll be like, right, let's just change deck, play something different. But now I'm just like, oh, I got to finish this so I can play like something a bit more synergistic or kind of interesting to play. But then I guess like that's just a me kind of gripe with it is that I have a short attention span.
No, it's actually like with any draft mode, I think it's the most fun part is always going to be the draft.
Yeah,
it's just how it is. Like being earlier, it's always going to be the most fun. Like when you actually play the games, you have fun as well. But there's nothing more exciting than seeing, oh, what cards am I going to get? Oh, is this synergy going to work out? And then you look at especially when you're getting towards the end, you're like thinking about what leader you're going to get. It's very fun and it's very exciting, and it's like the best part of the whole thing. So. Yeah, if you end up with a rather unsynergistic draft that doesn't really, there's really no good combos going on, or some cards even are clunky between them. Like, for example, I drafted like Scowl, and I had this perfect like double Old Geared and Savage Bear, but then I had Iris as well. So it was always like a headache because it could always like pull Iris randomly and stuff. Like these things factor in, and they can make certain, like there's going to be definitely like runs that are going to be way more dull than others that are going to be way more exciting. But I think that's fine.
Yeah, and like the runs do end up, like if you play a lot of them, they end up somewhat samey, especially if you want to be competitive. But the same is true for any draft mode. I mean, that's just draft modes in card games. Like honestly, I think if I had to say, there is probably only one kind of major problem I have with how this mode got implemented, and it's a really, really major one, but it's one that people aren't really talking about. I love the mode for what it is. I really enjoy it. I'm pleasantly surprised, and I was really skeptical going in. The one kind of issue I see with it isn't actually related to the mode itself, but because of how the mode is designed, it kind of almost hurts constructed. For example, a lot of people had the biggest problem with the midwinter update is that, the addition of create cards, but not just create cards, but kind of like low synergy cards that were made to kind of pad this style of arena mode, right? So the one problem that I really have with arena mode, which has nothing to actually do with arena mode itself, is the fact that this implementation of it kind of diverted like the card design of the pool, and it kind of will continue to do so for many other updates to a degree. That being said, I love the mode itself. Like the mode itself is great. It just seems like it has this cost to it. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Are you referring to like perhaps the slight downgrade in synergies between bronzes, like especially like which is very notable in the likes of Scoia'tael and Skellige?
More focus on like tutor package combos, and less focus less focus on rest, no matter how many times you do this, get a benefit. Like just kind of less all-in synergies, and that's I think a large part of the reason like why people didn't like the Midwinter update. And that's kind of the one downside I see to the implementation of this mode. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I actually agree. I think. I mean, we're not CDP looking down at you, but I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's probably the reasoning behind why they changed a lot of the cards, and they made it because if you make bronze cards too synergistic, then when they're offered to you in arena mode, it's going to be more difficult to get like an actual card that will provide you with consistent value on its own, right? So honestly, it makes a lot of sense to me, and
I love arena mode for what it is. Like actually playing it, I think it's perfect. I think it's great, and I'm literally going to do nothing else for a really long time. But that's kind of the one downside I see. What do you think, Jaggerous?
See, I think that having a core set with simpler cards is really good for the game. I get that we're like, we'd really love to have vampire archetypes and relic archetypes and this kind of cool thing you could do where like the vampire eats the relic, but then the relic buffs all the vampires, and we have this really cool like hybrid vampire relic deck, just as an example, something crazy. And that is definitely fun, but I think when you're making something where you have to kind of get a good core set, and the core set is the one that most people are going to have access to and then move on to the kind of expansions, and the core set is one that will be with us for the longest time. Having simpler cards is better for new players, and I think ultimately your new player experience is really important because people overlook this. Like none of us are new players, so we don't really care about the new player experience. But if you want Gwent to do well, you need people who then start playing the game to be able to understand it, to be able to pick it up, to have fun, and to understand what their cards do and how they win and that side of things. And I think having simplicity in the core set really helps that, because if I see a card and it's like, you know, it deals damage. So like the Adrian Mauler is like a 7/4, and then I switch to Skellige and it's got the one that's 7/4, but if you resurrect it, it does more damage. That's familiar to me. So then I'm like, oh, I can make a Skellige deck, and it doesn't feel so scary. And a lot of people who talk about the set, like we are talking about this from the perspective of someone who's played the game for a long time. And like, but then at the same time, I think that CDPR are starting to cater more to us with cards like Imler Sabbath, for example. Sabbath is a really cool card in terms of deck building. There's really fun things you can do with it, with ways to boost it and stuff. And I think that's the kind of cards that, you know, us as players do want to see for constructed. But I don't necessarily dislike what CDPR did in terms of simplification, assuming that it's not going to always be that way going forward.
Well, the problem is, I mean, it kind of depends quite exactly what you mean. I obviously, you know, I actually agree. New player experience is something that I'm kind of glad that they're prioritizing, because I mean the growth of the game is kind of the most important thing. But at the same time, I mean, if we're talking about like the cards that. There's kind of two things, and they're very related, right? There's simplification, and then there's like having kind of like lowish synergy. Like, okay, I shouldn't say low synergy, but like medium synergy. There's like a medium synergy interaction kind of between cards, whereas in the past we've had like very high synergy reactions. And when you're kind of building that around Arena, when you move forward, it's not just the core set, right? When they add more cards to the game, they have to keep this style of Arena in mind. So it's going to be hard for them to kind of incentivize like many of the high synergy decks we've seen in the past. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a different thing. That's why a lot of people are kind of reacting this way to the midwinter update. Again, it's just like not the Gwent that they're used to. Hello, Burza.
Someone told me to wave from alive.
I don't completely disagree with you, Jaggers. I just think that I'm being completely honest here, right? It really is hard to swallow, like when you see cards like Clan, the 2-search Hunter now used to be the Borkvark Hunter, right? Which was a card that synergized extremely well with the self-wounding, you know, not only like self-wounding, but obviously the Great Sword archetype, and a card that really promoted specific positioning, and a card that really showed how complex Gwent gameplay could reach. To see it like just be like, I understand that the simplification of cards. I understand catering to new players, but I also think that perhaps, in my opinion, it was a little bit slightly overdone. If it gets changed, if new cards get introduced that promote this complexity once again, then, you know, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? But I'm not for like the oversimplification of a lot of cards. Like, for example, the Combat Engineer, which is also in the beginner's starter deck. I don't know. I feel like there's a difference between simplifying cards, and like there's a difference between cards catering to newer players and cards just not being interesting, in my opinion. And I think reaching the proper balance to let, you know, new players come in. I'm not a game designer, right? And I try to put, I don't just think through the perspective of an experienced player. I also try to think of like people coming into the game. But I also, as somebody, when I get into a card game, I'm also always searching for those complex interactions, those cool synergies. But then again, I am a card game addict, so I know how card games work in general. So maybe even that sort of perspective is not, applicable English to a regular, a more casual type of player. So it's hard to say, but I don't know. I do feel I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna say something different that I've said, in my own streams, or have I said, in other places. I do believe there was oversimplification happening, and but like I said, that's just my opinion.
Burza, you haven't talked in a while, man. What do you think about all this?
I don't like talking over others, so that's why I'm always pretty much quiet. There's a couple factors that actually play into this. I think the main factor is that when we're implementing the new core, some cards got redone in some way, and some of them were done in a more, let's say, simple way to cater to like what Jaggerous mentioned. We're building a core set. Core sets should be something. If you look at MTG, for example, its cards are very simple. You don't really look for hardcore synergies because the player coming in and actually checking out the core set, it's a little bit too crazy. The problem we had is that before we had cards which had crazy synergies, had really cool mechanics, and those mechanics started disappearing. So when you have something cool and then you take it away, people instantly get frustrated, get mad, and this causes bad things. Also, one thing that kind of is important is that with the addition of new cards, some archetypes have more tools, some archetypes have less tools. And what we want to do moving forward right now is actually look back on what we have right now and also start addressing these things, changing them a little bit, making archetypes more, have a bigger kind of identity within themselves. And that is something that I know will happen, and it will happen most likely also when we'll be introducing new cards. Like if you look at the 10 cards that we just added to the game, the design team have a different approach right now. They're trying to think of something different, something cool. Like even if you look at Imlerith Sabbath, he's a really cool card. And when we were like testing him, when we were looking at the design, when we were talking to Rishik, he was like, this is either going to be something that's very good, or it's going to be something that people won't like, and it won't really be synergistic, won't really work well. Some cards are like, for example, Geralt. People are saying, oh, he's going to be terrible, but in Arena, he shines, right? And when he was creating these 10 cards, they were, of course, done thinking about Arena, but also with some addition to Constructed, so I can actually play these cards in Constructed. So moving forward, I think the guys want to add more cool stuff, and also add more interesting some mechanics, but also synergies. Like if you think about it, we teased that we're going to have vampires within the game. Well, vampires will have their own kind of mechanic around them. So these are things that will be coming and will be introduced. But I think if you look at the steps right now that we have to do, is like we have to look at what we have within the core set. We have to establish identity for each faction so everything works and synergizes with itself, and then start adding a little bit more cards into the game, of course, for fun, and for also creating more archetypes, adding more leaders and stuff like that. So that's how it looks. And of course, I've seen comments about oversimplification, while, like I said, core set was supposed to be a little bit more simpler. The problem here was that you give something that is complex and then you make it simpler, and people already see it as a downgrade. Exactly. So that's what the problem happens. But that kind of something that within the development phase got kind of mixed up and changed. Well, mistakes were made. But we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot from Create, of course, because there was a lot of talk about like how Elven Scout works and stuff like that. I mean, the guys are looking into Bronze Create cards and thinking maybe a rework should be done, maybe not. But this is something that, it's not like these things that are written, we don't read them. Well, we might not always react to them, but we're thinking, we're trying things and trying to make it better and better. So yeah, we're doing some crazy stuff that's behind the scenes. I can't go into detail, of course, but I think it will be good. I mean, I have a lot of trust in everybody. I'm very good friends with everyone on the design team, and they've been really awesome. They've been kicking ass. So I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I've seen one or two people talking about Create.
Yep. Well, I think you also wrote a post about it.
I did, yeah. Well, I was trying to like kind of talk about like maybe more of like the real issue, like the kind of issue that behind Create almost.
Yep.
But very related.
I think a big portion of the community has been blaming like Create as if it's like the soul, and it's actually, I think it's more like a symptom in a way, right? Like it's not
that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, it's and people some people are just like very like they're just unwilling to like see it that way. I think it's kind of because I think I still think Create is a great mechanic. Mechanic is just about implementation. Like I really like the new Triss card is one of the best examples of Create we've seen, because it promotes decks that revolve around using those specials. Like for example, I've actually seen it played already in Hensel machines to get that extra winch. But then you can focus on cards like Slave Driver, which are obviously problematic, at least in my opinion. And of course, Elven Scout. Like my big issue with Elven Scout personally is that it just it's not only the fact that it can provide you with a specific answer. like weather or whatever. It's the fact that it just kind of it just provides you with too much, even if it's just 1 point. That flexibility that it gives you, and the fact that it also promotes Elf Swarm because it gives you 2 bodies most of the time. Like it's a card that I feel like does too much, and it's just basically like an auto include. And I feel like those are examples, like Burza said, with the create implemented in bronzes is something that they're potentially looking into, right? But it's all about implementation. It's all about how you. I still think it's a cool mechanic. It's just it can't be that swingy, right? And that's what people are upset about.
Yeah.
I think people also forget that, if you weren't running that create card, you'd be running something else. So, yes, there are situations where someone plays, I don't know, like a Guerra True Form and then high rolls a Scorch or a Artifact Compression. But if you weren't running that Aguera, you would be running something else that would, synergize with the deck equally. Like, occasionally that's going to pay out slightly more, occasionally it's going to play out slightly less. Alternatively, you could run something with an average payout. And people kind of forget the fact that, if that didn't happen, something would still have been played there. It maybe wouldn't have been as insane. But again, at the same time, sometimes you play Aguera and it gives you like a bunch of cards that are useless. And that's the risk that you take. And that's kind of chosen by the player. And I agree that there are some create cards that maybe feel problematic, but I don't personally feel that create is as much of a big deal as people say.
According to people, is the apocalypse of Gwent. It's like, calm down, chill.
Yeah, it was the apocalypse of Gwent, and there was. I think it became a thing, especially where there was a lot of Squirtle going on, and Hattori resing the scout, pulling something crazy that pretty much destroys the opponent, and people are like, "This is not a skilled game anymore. It's all about luck." And yeah, I mean, we read these things, we get this, and I mean, I see chat, mentioning War Dancer. War Dancer is something that I've mentioned to the design team numerous times, but it's something that whenever we talk about it, whenever we think of something cool to do with it, it always becomes either a terrible card or it's just OP. And it's like, it's hard to find a good solution for it, but of course, I mean, this card is on our radar and people know about it. I remember, I think last Open, I talked a lot with Merchant about like War Dancer. I also talked a lot about like overall the cards with like Super JJ, Colomon, and guys. So, I mean, they had some interesting input into it. So everything's kind of on our radar, but pretty much we're trying to take it slow, step by step right now. So we'll pretty much see what's going to happen.
I think that's it. The other thing to point out is just like people saying, "Oh, create is all about luck and Gwent is all about luck." But we have the same people consistently performing well on pro ladder and on regular ladder, and like we saw Tailbot go through the Challenger qualifier this weekend, and win that, and
on the pro ladder, and he wins the Challenger qualifier. Yep. If that doesn't tell you that this game requires skill, I don't know what will.
Yep.
That's
like
what
people really focus on the specific moments in which RNG does provide you with a very swingy turn, but they just focus on that and they forget like the rest of the game in which, because a lot of people just focus on how a round plays out, but they don't think about how that person set up that round to be as long as it was.
Yeah, exactly.
It's there's a lot going on in Gwent, even though and it's to just focus on these swingy portions of, especially like I've seen in the Wild Hunt tournament, I saw Viscera I kind of ranted about this. I couldn't help myself because he played Heim and he created a silver unit, and in the matchup there was no RNG involved. It was against Deathwish Dagon, right? And people were like just spouting, "Oh, RNG," and it's like it's just the create mechanic. It just triggers people in that sense, right? But it's nowhere near as like game deciding or as people.
I mean, if you build a full RNG deck and play against someone who has like like a perfect ladder tier 1 deck, and you just get all the crazy stuff to RNG, you're most likely to win. I mean, you can be sometimes destroyed by Shoop deck, and it's gonna happen. I mean, but it's not gonna happen all the time. It's not gonna be consistent. But you see on stream, so we're like, clip it, put it on Reddit. We good. Yeah.
Especially because streamers, have emotions, and sometimes they get mad, and but it's like you gotta be careful because they'll just clip it and post it on Reddit.
Yeah, and like I get it. I get that create is frustrating. I understand that Elven scouts feel like, I agree, they do feel kind of crappy in that the kind of tempo that they can make and their synergies with elves, with the things like the Vree heads and Ailerin and all that. I get that because it's very consistent. Same with slave drivers. Like slave drivers is like, I've got a gap in my Nilfgaard deck. Well, let's just put this in because more often than not it'll pay out. Especially with the current meta not being as engine focused, with kind of the elf swarm and all that. Like I totally get it. I just feel like it's not the worst thing. Like it needs tweaking and balancing, but there's lots of things in Gwent that people want to see tweaking and balancing. Like let's talk about enforcers, for example.
Oh, yeah. Enforcers. Speaking about streamers getting emotional. So I'm actually quite curious about how we feel about enforcers. Mogwai, what do you think?
Well, it's funny you start with me. I'm actually I'm not gonna back out here. I'm gonna I'm gonna see how it is.
Go through.
Yeah, and just before I say this, Pablo, I love you, and
I know.
I hope we're still friends.
Of course we are.
But I don't know what they were thinking, honestly. I think it's when the bug was happening. Not only me, but the majority of people thought it was like the bug was that it did not, because in the first turn, if you played Imperial Forces in the first turn, it would not proc. I thought they had just been said because in the tool, like in the wording of the card, it's open to interpretation because it says for every spy you played this turn, deal 2 damage for each spy at turn end. So it doesn't say that the card, has to have been on the board before this happens or not. And the way they have worked in the past, we all assumed that the Imperial Enforcer bug was actually that in the first turn, it would not work properly. But it turns out apparently that it was the other way around. And I don't get that because I understand at first people were freaking out with the midwinter patch when they buffed the Imperial Enforcers. I understand the reasoning behind it. There was a huge power creep when it comes to bronze cards, and they wanted to make sure that card, didn't get left behind. It turned out that it was perhaps overtuned in a way, right? Which I agree with. I also think it was less interesting because it was just like the reverse Imperial Brigade. As you just build up the spies and then you drop them down, you actually saved it in your hand. I don't know why they just, especially considering that after this bug was tested and the card was being played like old midwinter patch enforcers, except you couldn't play them turn 1, and spies was still considered a tier 2 deck at best. It did not perform well in tournaments and high ladder or anything. People were playing Alchemy Nilfgaard instead. I don't understand why they just do this to the card, because right now it's like you have to lead off with it. If you don't drop it turn 1, you just lose value from it. Before you have to actually it added skill, it added depth to the deck because you have to know what to mulligan. What you need to mulligan is the Enforcer, because you know that if you pull them through emissary chains, you mitigate some of the potential values that you would lose when they are removed, as they will proc a few times through a potential emissary chain or an extra time. Every extra proc matters. Like every extra 2 points matters in Gwent. Goes a long way, right? So now the fact that you have to just lead off with them, especially in a metagame with so much ridiculous amount of removal, and considering their low base strength, I'm mad. Maybe I'm biased, but I'm very mad. I don't like it. And I just want to say it because, I got pretty, I had a tantrum. And that's all I'd say.
Burza, your rebuttal?
My response is simple. I think a week before when the change was going to be introduced, I sat down with, I think, Ostre. He's like, we're changing enforcers. I'm like, well, you're fixing them, you mean? He's like, yeah, because, they weren't supposed to work in the way that they worked when we started changing things midwinter. So they were supposed to be on the board, and when they're on the board, they're supposed to, trigger. And the same goes for if you played emissary into emissary and then got one, and they would retroactively hit. That wasn't the design for the card. But he's like, we're going to change it because we need to fix it because it's considered a bug in our view. And if we do it, people are just going to react the way Mogwai reacted. I'm like, yeah, I know it's most likely going to happen. But I mean, looking at it, and if it's really gonna happen that the archetype that the card is gonna see less and less and less play, and people are gonna be unhappy, the guys will change it. I mean, the good thing about having a digital card game is it's a living thing. You can change things on the go, you can adjust stuff, you can make archetypes better, and like I've always had full faith in the design team. So I know if of course, like people like Mogwai, if they react the way they react, we'll start changing things. We'll start adjusting things. But pretty much the idea was that they weren't supposed to work the way they were working. It was considered a bug, and it was something that we had to fix. So the fix came. If the card sees less play, if it won't be playable, of course, we'll be looking into it and trying to adjust it. It's as simple as that. It's like what we try to do with all cards. Of course, there are still some cards that probably need a better adjustment, but that's kind of slowly coming in the works. Yep.
I think it's one of these things.
Sounds like you're saying Mogwai needs to react more.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I mean, people are emotional. They say things that come from an emotional state.
It means we care, though.
I know. Yes, I agree. But sometimes, like if you look at me, I keep my emotions inside. I don't let them fly out. But
I'm
not everybody.
I don't know how to do that.
I know. Wait, I know you for such a long time. I know you never meant anything bad, so it's just out of pure concern and love for the game, which is okay. But of course, you gave fuel to the almighty Reddit hive mind, so that's how it is. But we'll be good. Don't worry.
Well, I mean, it's like they say, love isn't the opposite of hate. The opposite of love is indifference, and it's the fact that all the Gwent players are so passionate about the game is why they talk the way they do.
Exactly. It's like Swim doesn't hate his chat. He's just indifferent. Anyway, I think we should move on and talk about Wild Hunt a little bit. I mean, I would have Swim talk about Wild Hunt, but I don't know how alive he is at this point.
I'm getting punished for going. It's the worst.
I think it's post-event sickness. It's something that hits super quick. I think after the first challenger, everybody was sick in the office. But the more you do these, the easier.
People got sick from the second challenger too.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say the second challenger is also not a good example.
I'm gonna come. Huh?
You gotta get that.
Oh no, I wasn't saying anything.
I was gonna say you gotta get that hand sanitizer for events. Just don't use it right after you greet someone. Be like, hey, and then just get out your hand sanitizer. It's not good. But
no, you use it before because then when you shake their hands, you give them a little present so that they can be clean too.
Nice.
But confluence stuff is a thing, and there are things that I guess you can learn from it. But I think it was a really cool event. The production was awesome. The belt prize was really cool. It's such an American I feel like it's such an American prize, and we got you this wrestling belt for winning a
That thing was awesome.
That's true. I loved it. I ended my stream and I watched pretty much the whole thing until I just had to go to bed.
All 16 hours, huh?
No. I stayed up until I stayed up until midnight my time basically, and then I was just exhausted, right? So I didn't get to see the top 8. I think you
didn't get to see the last 7 hours of the event, my friend.
Jesus, how long was it?
It ended at 1 a.m. my time. Eastern American time, 1 a.m. is when it
7 a.m. Oh, shit. Ooh.
Yeah.
Apparently it was a 16-hour event.
Yeah, because one of the last things I saw was Vishra was Janol. Vishra did so good. He was so good. Holy crap. And I loved it. I loved Pumpkin's game versus was it Amion or something like that, or Amon? Yeah,
I should know this.
Yeah, Pumpkin with his control, Scoia'tael with the Panthers just shutting down great swords. I loved lock-in defeating your beloved deck Swim with the Grave Swords tech.
I hate that deck. It's not beloved to me anymore.
Good. Yeah. Well, it felt good because that deck has been so dominant for a bit, and to see a deck like Great Swords is one of my favorite decks ever in Gwent. I love it. I think we need more decks like that, and to see him go down -2 and then bring it back. Like, that's always exciting to see. There were so many good games. The production quality was top notch, and I just enjoyed the hell out of it. Honestly, like it was super good.
There were like half of a dozen of like just super memorable moments, and I guess that'll come with the territory of being a 16-hour stream. But I mean, it was a cool event, and you know, I mean, maybe next time it won't be 16 hours in one day.
No, it was one of those events where you watched it and you're like, oh man, I wish I was there. It definitely should have been a 2-day event, but you know, I really wanted to be there. And oh my god, Flake killed it with the hostess.
Oh, Flake was amazing. Flake was amazing.
One of those events where
the Red Dream when he fell in the chair.
Oh, Red Dream.
Red Dream in the chair.
Yeah, I would recline my chair.
He handled that really well too. Like Flake was awesome. Yeah.
Like for me, Flake and his charisma really shined. I mean, he cannot get enough kudos from people for his performance. He was there like a madman, going crazy, and he's very natural at hosting. I mean, it's very natural. It doesn't come natural to everybody, but he was just on point. But yeah, I think the also thing that stood out for us when we were watching it was just the production value. Production value was on point. The games were super intense. Like Mogwai mentioned, it was great to see Vistra pretty much back in a competitive environment, because I think that's where he thrives and where he belongs. So yeah, overall, like the event was great. And I remember because we were talking to Graves and No Control before the whole thing happened. We were talking about like how can we support SCDPR, and after the event, like No Control, he was like, oh man, this was such a cool event. I just feel kind of like an emptiness without it.
Yeah, so, he was saying the same thing.
Yeah, it just shows how much passion there is. So it was really cool.
Yeah, no, Flake was great. Almost, you know, good enough to have over at like a challenger type of event, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty much. It was totally like a challenger event.
PogChamp.
I think I missed the question though, but.
Huh? What? There was no question.
Oh, okay, cool.
What do you mean?
We good now.
We're good. Oh, we're good. Okay.
Always good. Get some rest.
Yeah, Jaggerous, I was oh, you know what? Never mind.
Do it. What were you gonna say?
Huh? No, I forgot.
Oh, you forgot. Okay, that's convenient. That is convenient. So other things before we move on to chat questions, because that's going to be exciting. Is Colamon is now officially part of Topdeck. We're going to announce this. He was number 2 on the Pro Ladder last season. He's competing in the Gwent Open, and our competitive team will be helping him prep for that. So, you know, making sure he's top of his form. Although I think he's like a really solid player anyway. So hopefully this is just like we're going to give him like a little bit of shine. And basically he'll be representing the Topdeck brand, which is going to be really cool.
Yeah, I love
right
Colamon.
now.
He came to Gwent Challenger to the castle, and you know we hung out. We actually flew in at the same time, so we took the same like limo to the hotel. He's a really cool guy, and I mean his kind of you know progression in the games during Challenger 2 were definitely one of the highlights of the event. I'm very sorry, Mogwai. What were you saying?
No. I just wanted to like jump in on that boat and say that right now, like from a caster perspective and seeing like the top players go at it, that the player who I believe, if I had to say like right now, if I have to name the number 1 player in Gwent, I would say Colamon. I think he's the one that's impressed me the most. Yeah. And I just think he's insane. Like he lost to JJ because he got, you know, super teched with his consume, but he just always plays so well. Like I cannot recall like many. The only misplay that I recall from him is in the finals of the first Challenger. It's just he barely missteps, and he executes so well. And he always like even bad matchups, he seems to overcome them. Like he's just incredible. Like the best player in the world for me right now, personally. I just think he's that good. Well, Freddy's up there too, though.
I was gonna say Freddy Babes for sure.
Those two are just nuts.
Yep, and the other thing we have to announce is that we have this announcement. I think it's called like Rat Hunter. But basically, how do you feel about not pro ladder, regular ladder? Pretty good. How do you feel about money? Yeah, everyone likes money. Money's great. Well, Topdeck is giving $100, not $100,000, $100 to the first player to achieve the Grandmaster rank in the Season of the Bear, so the March season. This is being supplied by our very own No Control, so shout outs to him. So if you like climbing the rank ladder and hate arena, then this is maybe the thing for you. So this is just something that's really cool. It's like giving you an incentive to try and be the best like no one ever was. And you don't have to defend it, you have to get there first, right? So it's like first across the finish line. You don't have to then like kill everyone as they try and cross the finish line, so that's just one thing we wanted to announce really quickly. And it's not $100,000, it's $100. But still, like, I think if you're going to sink like thousands of hours into Gwent, like, this way you're getting paid something. I mean, it's not minimum wage, but still seems
nice.
Good. But without further ado, I guess we should open up the floor to viewer questions. So if anyone has any questions, at Topdeck Gwent in the chat, you can ask questions of Mogwai, of Burza, of myself, or Swim. Just
they'll pretty much all be questions to Burza. Yeah, like
here we go.
Enforcers.
First one, why no balance changes? No balance changes because we just introduced a new game mode, and if we started mixing up balance changes within the mix, I think we would get a lot of people unhappy. We've seen that doing things in pairs or like multiple things at one time never is good for the game. So there was a decision not to include any balance changes, although the team was thinking about some things like the before mentioned word answers and stuff like that. So we kind of decided to stop a little bit. Mm-hmm.
So does this mean we won't see any balance changes until the end of the current season?
Most likely, like we said before, we want to wait for the end of the season in order to introduce changes. And there are some things that are being worked on that I can't talk about like specifically, but are big changes that we maybe will introduce to the game. I'm not saying 100%, because some things are getting reworked, they're getting changed, shifted, and if this all goes and moves the way we want, we will be introducing them. So it's a kind of like a big project, but it's a big project from the design side, and it's being kind of done right now behind the scenes. And based on how that goes, we'll see if we want to implement it. But yeah, for the next one, there will be balance changes.
Here's a question. What's the biggest vainglory you've seen so far? The biggest vainglory I've seen so far was 9 points.
I think I saw a 30-point
21.
played.
Oh, 30. Whoa, Jesus.
Yeah.
How many does he get? Like +4 per
Plus
card?
Plus
Plus
three.
3. What's his base? I've seen one that's around like the 16,
9.
17 mark. I don't know
It's 9.
exactly.
So basically, like in constructed, his maximum output is 18 points, but
Yeah.
he can go further up in arena. I've seen him at 21, and I myself played him in my first PTR arena run actually, and I got him to 15. It's but the stars can align, and you can get him up at like 30. Seems crazy.
The thing is,
Yeah.
Happen.
but then you might be drafting suboptimal. Like Erden is, very situational and stuff. So like when you start drafting for Vainglory, it can get a little bit awkward. But on the flip side, like regular Geralt, like vanilla Geralt is really strong. So I haven't seen any huge ones, but I've heard of huge ones. Like I think there was a Reddit post of one which had like all of the Geralts. Any news about Thronebreaker? People are just kind of spamming Thronebreaker and emotes.
Like right now, if you look at our team and the way it's structured and how everybody has been divided, a lot of work and the majority of the team has been shifted to working on Thronebreaker. So the scope of the project has grown from what we have already shown before, and also how the game works and also the interactions within it have changed and have grown a lot. So it's gonna be more than what you saw before. So I can just say that. But we're working on it. We're working on it really hard. It's still there. It's not something we forgot. It's just something that we're not talking yet about, because we'll be talking about it when it's closer to being finished.
Yeah, how many people do you have working on Thronebreaker, Burza? It's quite a lot.
How many we have working on Thronebreaker?
Yeah, working on Thronebreaker. Big number.
I would have to count it, and I think it's big because the majority has been shifted to that. It's difficult to say. I don't want to give out a number, but
including like level designers and artists, but like ballpark, like it's like 40, 50. It's a lot.
Something around 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So other chat questions. People are asking about icons, and I think something about removal of icons. Why the portrait rewards changed this season? Something like that.
Yeah, like previous season, we were saying that we're going to be adjusting it. And the number one problem we had is that we wanted avatars to be there that are very inclusive and everybody has a chance to get them. I like that people like the ability of something being a vanity item that is very difficult to obtain, but overall for the majority of players it's super difficult. And like we had Rosh come back once again because Rosh was super requested by everybody and everybody wanted him, although I don't know why, because he hated Squirtle. But we wanted to make him easy, a lot more easier to be access to, and that was pretty much the change. We also like changed the distribution, added stuff. So titles and borders for ranks 10, 15, and 20, and we had to do it, and we wanted to do it to let people have the cool stuff who are not putting as much to the game. Of course, we have things for people who are there at the top 10,000. They will also get vanity items, but it's not an avatar anymore. It's just frames and titles.
Yeah, I'm happy about that. My personal favorite is of the new ones is the King Bran. He's just like I thought I would never change Dandelion, but I had to change that one. A grave error.
You can be Dagon and just make strange noises at people. Like
just
I have absolutely no idea what he's saying, so it's fun. But I like the changes. I think making rewards more accessible is really good, and having this breakdown of top 100, top 1,000, top 10K allows people to kind of go for different things. Like previously, it was a case of people would get to like 4K MMR and be like, well, there's no point in playing anymore, whereas now if you got to 4K you were just under the 10K cutoff, I think, so then you could try and go for that 4K, or you could try and go for that GM, and the people who then hit GM have something to go for. They're like, it's not like, oh, I'm not going to be number one. Like top 100 is much more attainable than top 1, so I think overall the changes are good. Someone keeps asking whether we're going to have card backs in Arena which show the cards that you have, so like neutral card backs for your neutral cards, monsters card backs for your monsters cards. So instead of having all of them be the same as the leader, have them represent the card that you have.
It's a pretty cool idea. I for sure would take the idea and pass it on, because I think it should be doable on kind of, it should be doable. I'll think about it.
That would add skill depth to the game for sure.
I would. There would be a lot you could do with just like calling individual cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Might look a little weird, but
yeah. It's also something you could do, if you want to just test it out as an event, have it like that for a week as a special arena. Because I know that they mentioned having 2 faction drafts or something that would happen potentially as an event, where instead of drafting from every faction, you might have the option of 2. So it's a really cool idea, and hopefully maybe something that we can see in the future. Are there any more kind of pressing questions? When are you going to stream again? There's a question. That's what chat wants to know.
Burza, probably.
Me? Burza, yeah. Everyone else has been streaming.
I'm always, when I stream, people say I'm either tired and stuff like that. I want to do it again, but with streaming, the problem is that not only do I work a lot, when I come home, I'm beat. I try to spend some time with the family, but I pretty much stream as much as Panda does, so I thought he also mentioned it in chat. We don't do it quite often, but yeah, I want to go back doing it. But when I see all the negativity, and then I'm like, no, I just don't want to stream because I'll get bombarded with questions that I already answer all day. So, but I really want to go back to it because it's fun. Like I have some awesome followers there, and people are always super nice and to me and open, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I want to get back to it. So soon TM, and I hope like real soon TM, not soon TM in a couple of years.
So I guess a couple other quick questions. Somebody's asking about the coin flip. I feel like I
Oh,
just
yeah.
have to ask it because it's there.
You can't have a CDPR representative on the talk show without someone asking about the coin flip.
Yeah.
No.
Coin
Is
flip.
that a soon TM couple of years as opposed to a streaming soon TM?
Pretty much, coin flip is something that has kind of come back to the drawing board in some way.
I mean, at this point, I'd be happy if it was fixed in a couple of years.
But if it will get changed or if it will not get changed, we'll see.
Sweet. And the last thing I guess we want to touch on is what's happening with the servers, because I guess there's been some instability recently.
Oh yeah. Yes, pretty much since yesterday, since we deployed Arena and deployed the patch, there have been some problems with connectivity, and it's an ongoing problem that we were trying to fix for these 2 days. So the programmers were working actually to bring more stability. It's still work in progress. I hope this will be fixed tomorrow. Also, some other pressing problems like cards like Shillard, I think, and Shield, the Tankerville not working properly. These are things that need to be addressed as soon as possible. So this most likely is some stuff that's not entirely based on design, but based on how there are things on the server side. We had a similar problem before where we delayed the patch by 1 day, and it was also due to some severe problems on the server side. So what I can say is that this needs to be fixed as soon as possible. So I hope tomorrow will bring stability to the game, and then we can actually tweet out to people that everything is working properly. But yeah, I mean, it's the #1 priority right now, and we're testing things. QA is QAing a lot of changes. Programmers are implementing things, and we're doing it also on a live environment, which is always difficult because normally you would have to, stop the servers, do some downtime, and then work on it. Maybe that would be better, but we also don't want to keep people, especially that we launched the new mode, we don't want to keep people out of the game because I think that would have even worse severe consequences coming to us. So yeah.
Anyway,
I hope tomorrow it should be good.
I was gonna say. Anyway, I think that's all the time we have for questions today. Unless Jaggerous, you have one more.
Just one last, I guess, quick question. Someone was asking if we'll see anything coming out in terms of kind of behind the scenes from the devs, so kind of talking about the kind of thought process that they go through, or just from people at CDPR talking about game design and that sort of thing. I guess similar to like Beyond the Frame, but maybe from a more development perspective. And I guess kind of like the segments that we see sometimes in Round of Gwent when you guys have artists or creators on, but maybe something more consistent.
I really want to do something like that. We were kind of playing around right now with changing the format. Like before you saw more a Round of Gwent, and the Round of Gwent was great, but if you look at viewer wise, it was kind of it started super well and then it was kind of going down and down. And I think some topics were more interesting, some were less. So like we want to keep a Round of Gwent for when we actually have like juicy, meaty content that we want to talk about. While we have other things like Twig, where I just make a fool of myself every week, and then like simpler, quicker formats. But I really want to do something where we actually talk a little bit more about what our plans are, what the decision process is. And I think a good start for like things showing decision process and why we do some of the things we do is the patch notes that I was working on with the design team. I want to do those moving forward always whenever we do any changes to balance, to kind of provide a little bit of what we do, how we think, what's the process behind some of the changes. And of course, I think, like you mentioned, it would be really cool to have something where we talk in detail in front of a camera why we do some things and why we don't. But yeah, of course, if it's requested, we'll be doing more stuff. We're pretty much, like you guys know, we're very community driven. So whatever is requested, we pretty much try to do it. There's also one more question. Sorry for the long rant. There was a question about premiums that are missing since midwinter. These are things that are being worked on. For the 10 cards, we pretty much had those cards ready, but for the other ones, we're working on it. I want to introduce some, most likely ASAP. So if possible, next patch. If not, the one after that. I can tell you, like cards like Puffco Gil, for example. I've seen the finished animation. I was doing the grunts for him, which is like when he's aiming and moving. It was like,
nice,
and all that stuff, which was the weirdest thing I've done in my life. And I already have some time booked with the audio designers to do the voice lines for him. So I mean, it's pretty much coming to a finished state. So I think that it's only one card of all the cards that you've seen before that are getting their premium version. So there won't be just the glare that pisses people off, but a little bit more to it. So yeah, they're work in progress, and they will be introduced. So we haven't forgotten about them in any way. They haven't been moved to next year or something like that. They're almost done. The problem with these premiums is that there's a lot of them, and all of them take a lot of work. When I looked on the process of getting a card, which I am on, so Puffco, animated and then voice, VFXs and all that, it's so much work.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that you guys are not like holding back on releasing new cards just because of the premium animation. I like that. And the important thing is the card actually being playable, and then obviously it's very exciting to have them animated and all that. But I remember being last time I was in CDPR. I don't know if it was for like the Two Opens ago or something like that. Yeah, I was mentioning this, and I like it. It speeds up the process. So, yeah. Exactly. It must take a long time. It seems super complicated.
Yeah, it is complicated, and normally the process used to take around a month from illustration to fully animated and voiced and with all the VFX and everything. Right now it's a little bit less. So if you think about it, it's really a lot of time. But the animation team also has been growing. So I'm really excited, and they're going to be really cool.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a good point to wrap it up then. So the last thing we have to do is shout outs and that kind of thing. So if anyone has anything that they want to plug.
Shill. Oh, dude, Mogwai and I know quite a bit about shilling, actually.
Yeah, so you have anything
Mogwai?
He's not a
shill. Want to promote in terms of your content or that kind of thing, or anyone you want to shout out, then
ask him about Enforcers. We'll see if he's a shill or not.
Maybe that's my tactic to, confuse people, make them think I'm not a shill.
Let's start with Mogwai. You got any shout outs or things you want to mention?
Shill.
Well, go ahead and download Gwent for free. CDPR, best studio ever. I don't know. Basically, I do stream on Twitch daily at 11 a.m. Central European time, and I also upload videos on YouTube. /Mega Mogwai with a 0 because I made originally my username, but I lost the password, so I had to redo it. And I play Gwent and stuff. Thank you. Subscribe.
Burza?
Big shout out to the community team. So the team I'm working on day to day, they had a lot on their plate recently, dealing with our lovely community. But shout out to them, being great support for me. And it's not only support and work, but it's also mental support, which is most important. Talking about mental support, shout out to a friend also at work who doesn't work in a community team. Her name is Ola. She's also been great support that I can talk to. And of course, shout out to my daughter, who has been also great support for me, and also getting me away from thinking about Gwent and asking me, if, for example, if I need a shot or if my arm's broken and I need healing and stuff like that, because she likes playing doctor now. So shout out to her for keeping life interesting.
Oh, that kind of shot. You threw me there for a second.
Yeah. No, not shot in the head.
I didn't know we were supposed to shout out other people.
Drink.
I came off like, okay.
Oh, Swim, or do you want me to go first?
Oh, I'd like to give a shout out to my 3 favorite cards in Gwent. Shillard, Shihill, and Shilla de Tanzerville.
Oh, nice. Nicely done.
I see what you did. Well, I want to wrap this up by mentioning very quickly that on Saturday, I believe there's like a Wild Hunt wrap-up stream. I'm not 100% sure whose channel it's on, but we'll post on the Topdeck Twitter, which is at Topdeck Pro, so you can follow there. But there's going to be a Wild Hunt overview with a bunch of people who are at Wild Hunt, who I think have maybe recovered from Wild Hunt sickness. So there'll be a whole roundtable, and you can find out the ins and the outs and all the gossip from the after party. I want to shout out the ladies of Gwent. So I guess in chat I've seen Alias, Shermie's here, and Pasoko I've seen in chat, but just in general the ladies of Gwent and the whole Lodge of Sorcerers and that. It's cool to see. There's actually so many ladies in Gwent, which is awesome. So shout outs to you guys.
Shout out to Shermie.
Oh, shout outs to Shermie. Oh, that's nice, Mogwai. I wonder why you would. But beyond that, yeah, shout outs to chat. Have a fantastic evening, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Bye.